everyone, Kuro the Artist here. I know a lot of y'all have been patiently waiting for me to finish the Albedo arc in Omniverse. And judging by your comments, it seems to be a pretty popular one, but I gotta be honest, I don't get it. I like a lot of what Omniverse does with Albedo, like his ultimate redesigns, the new transformations, and the other parts of the arc were cool, like Kyber getting a new hunting dog, an adventure that has the main trio, Rook and Max all together for the first time, and the Atomics reveal is incredibly memorable. But other than that, I feel like this is the weakest arc so far, even more so than season 1. And a huge contributor to that is this episode right here. Most multi-part episodes usually have one episode that does better than the other, but it's still important for them to stand on their own as individual stories. Not only does this episode barely stand on its own when not sandwiched in between its relevant pairings, but it's not even a good episode as part of the arc either. We've had episodes that prioritize the humor first and just use a plot to thread all the jokes together, but this story doesn't even have a plot. There is no direction and it feels very monotonous, and it's only really here to get all the characters from point A to point B, with a ton of fluff happening in between. Another notable part is the Ditto chase sequence, but that takes up 5 minutes of this episode's runtime, and Ben ends up exactly where he started, in a chase scene of all scenes. It is completely removable, and I would almost say the same for this episode if it wasn't for a few key elements introduced that save it, but I don't see why this had to be part of the Albedo arc to begin with. I have a lot to say about this episode, but at the risk of retroactively repeating myself, I'm just gonna let y'all hear it all in the breakdown proper. But this episode really makes me want to ask, when you say you like the Albedo arc, do you also mean this episode specifically? Please let me know down below. And if this is your first breakdown and you're curious about how my rating system works, there's a detailed description down below, along with a link to all of my previous episodes, but by all means watch this one first, I'm sure you'll still enjoy it. And I also want to let y'all know about our giveaway. It is completely free to enter, no purchase necessary, and all you have to do is follow us on Instagram, which is linked down below, and comment on this post what your favorite Ultimate Alien character is. A winner will be selected from the comments at random, and I'll ship you one of the keychains that I unboxed in this video, along with a signed personal doodle of said keychain. The giveaway ends when our Instagram reaches 20,000 followers, so however long that takes is however long you have to enter. But let's go check in and see what Fro the Bro is up to.
Are you ready for this? And 3. 1, 2, 3. Damn it! Again! 3. God! 3. I didn't have a third gift. Whatever. Where'd you get all this stuff from anyway? I got your gifts from today's sponsor, Holzkern. Holzkern is a watch and jewelry company for both men and women founded in Austria. Their products are made from natural materials and they're made in small quantities, so not only is every item unique, but they meet a high standard of quality. That's cool and all, but why are we opening gifts before Christmas? Oh, that's because the products usually arrive in 2 to 5 business days and I was too excited to give you your gift. Damn, that's fast as hell. Shipping had to be expensive. No, not at all. They actually offer free express shipping worldwide. Oh shoot, that's pretty cool. I got to get something from there. You definitely can, and if you order before December 19th, it is guaranteed to get here before Christmas. Be sure to click our link in the description below for a 15% discount when you check out. This holiday, stay safe, stay elegant. Holzkern.
On November 23rd, 2013, Charlotte Fullerton gave us the episode A Fistful of Brains. Albedo has now teamed up with Kyber to lure Ben to the latter's biome hunting grounds. Meanwhile, Rook and Max try to track Ben down and find him across the galaxy. Back in Undertown, we see Ben racing through, and here's a couple of worsts. This Atrocian design always stuck out to me. I think it's very funny looking. Derek calls him a worst offshoot, and the wiki identifies him as Slim Worst. That's a really cool looking frame. Now, one thing this episode's most noteworthy for is when it originally aired, its entire color palette got shifted lighter. It wasn't just the footage, because if you notice, the blacks are still black. Like you can see here, if it was truly like a brightness raise, then even the blacks would be affected. But it seems to just be like a color or a saturation shift upwards. So this episode is a lot more brighter and a lot more pale than it's ever looked before, than any of the other shows. It's kind of like the reverse of what happened to Alien Force, where all of its episodes were exported with a much darker hue than how it was originally exported. exported. However, according to the wiki, on the Duel of the Duplicates DVD, as well as the Arabic dub of the series, this episode was broadcast in its original colors. And we can compare some of the still frames right here, how the original broadcast had all of the colors and how it's supposed to have looked. But given that the bright version is the one I'm working with, this is the one I'm gonna have to do the video with. So it is a little bit distracting, but knowing that there's a corrected version out there does kind of save it. Whereas, at least for me, the color corrected versions of the Alien Force episodes are very hard to get my hands on. If any of y'all have access to those episodes, I would love to see them. We don't yet see who Ben is chasing. Oh, now we do. Here's Albedo. Now, the last time we saw him, he just achieved his ultimate form and was on ship with Kyber. And then there was a couple episodes without him. So rejoining Albedo here in the middle of a chase is a little bit confusing, but knowing Albedo, this is all part of his plan. He probably just popped down to Undertown, flagged Ben down to get his attention, and is now luring him somewhere. I love how all the citizens of Undertown just have no reactions. They're just so used to Ben's bullshit now. Now the sound effect is of wood, but this right here is clearly concrete, and human form Albedo is just bursting through it again. It is kind of peculiar that Albedo is still resulting to his human form, even though now he can become a Galvan again. And as far as we know, his Ultimatrix doesn't have any timeouts or recharges. So even if his default form was still human, I don't see why he would still use it. Like, he could spend his entire time as a Galvan if he really wanted to.
I know he's down here somewhere.
That running animation always looked weird to me ever since I first saw this episode. The way he's running and the kind of strides you'd imagine him having, he should be like soaring forward. It's not just about the speed, which I think is why it looks weird. They tried to fix it by speeding up his frames. But it's just a matter of the frames themselves, like he should be accelerating forward with the amount that he's moving his body and covering such little ground. Oh, there's a little sight on the proto tool. Have we seen this sight before? I feel like we must have, but this is my first time really getting a good look at it.
Albedo!
The shots match the clicks in the soundtrack is a great detail. Dude. That's neat.
Ben, wait!
That's a cool wall. And it's a great trap too. The plumber should start utilizing this technology.
It's a trap!
Turns out Kyber's ship was hidden behind these buildings. So this isn't cloaked or anything. Was the ship just straight up underground in there? How did they get it in there in the first place? Oh, I guess that red shield forming was like the window? Or are those just coincidentally the same color? Rook has not said a single word yet. Unless it's gonna be Ben. Yep, yeah, that seems like a line you would put there. Although here in the theme song, even the blacks are a lot brighter than they should. It all got affected. That's super strange. How do you get two different brightness adjustments? If you start eating paste, he'll kill you with no trace, Ben 10. Very strange looking area. Here we got Slamworm, haven't seen you in a bit, with a hilariously smaller head than usual. Like, look at this shot compared to when Diamond Head fought him, for example. That's nutty. I like this area though. It reminds me a little bit of Primus, specifically with the way these tube things are coming out. That's very Primus-like, and they're even cloned over and over again. In fact, are these assets reused from Primus? These drippy vines, the tube-like things in the background. This is either an extreme coincidence, or a lot of these plants are reused from Primus. We can even say, like, in universe, they're the same plants too. Maybe Kyber and Azimuth go to the same botanist.
And good morning to you too!
Yeah, this looks exactly like Primus. I don't know what to tell you. In fact, Adobe's new color replace feature sucks. They used to have a much better one and it updated to this, but like, you see what I'm saying? Like, this is just Primus.
No.
And of course, we're only seeing the same 7 icons again.
Way big would be overkill.
I don't know, you've been way big for less. You were way big just to fuck on Will Harang a couple seasons ago. In fact, with his height, he'd probably hit the fake ceiling and figure everything out instantly.
Ah, what the heck?
This episode's also full of very cartoony movements. Now that's something Omniverse has been doing like the whole series so far, but this episode in particular is like stuffed with them. This one and Mystery and Corporal stand out to me as like the most like super anime Looney Tune types of movements that the whole series has to offer. It's not even a terrible thing, but when it's used super sparingly, but this episode pulls out all the stops and it's like almost every shot, it is very noticeable and incredibly distracting.
Hey, cut it out!
Like this too, having this type of slapstick kind of animation and then back to back with something like this, you start to see him already starting to stack up.
Not good!
Man, just try to transform again. You were only interrupted once.
Azimuth has an answer, and without his technology, this is the best we can do.
Oh man, it's Roebucket again. Hey buddy. Very interesting sound effect. It's like kind of blorpy.
Indicates local sensors have picked up Ben's DNA.
10. Tennyson, Benjamin Kirby.
That is 41 light years away from Earth. Impressive propulsion system.
Funny how Rook's first reaction is about Kyber's speed being able to go that far. That's a very Kevin kind of line if you think about it. They're starting to really rub off on each other. But how far away did Azimuth say Galvin was allegedly?
I come 76,000 light years, and I don't even get a formal greeting.
76,000 light years. And they're having trouble with
41 light years away from Earth.
which is less than what Azimuth traveled, but they did say.
Without his technology, this is the best we can do.
So even if that's unintentional, I like how that still all lines up, because they could just be sprouting numbers and not think about it.
Can you match that speed?
Any chance you're getting tired yet?
Ben, transform.
You asked for it, dude.
Finally.
It's hero time!
Hey. That was a weird delivery, though.
It's hero time!
All right, man, I guess. But we haven't gotten a hero time since Store 23. It has been a bit. See, this is definitely supposed to be a black screen right here, and it's friggin' gray. These aren't really episode errors. This is like an exporting error. But man, it's just so noticeable, you know? It's like the black backgrounds in Alien Force. It's like, how can I not keep mentioning it? So Slamworm seems immediately terrified at the sight of an Arborian Pelorota. I wonder if there's some lore ties to that, or if it's just like, haha, goofy, look at that. And how is this motherfucker gonna be shaded in the brightest section of the forest? Like, come on, man. See, now we're just pushing it. Y'all are really turning me into the grumpy old man yelling at the kids on their lawn. Like, come on. We're pushing these goofy jokes pretty far, and back to back to back to back to back to back. Y'all are seeing this too, right? The show really does not do it this much, and this episode's just gonna be this for 22 minutes.
I so hope this isn't my natural predator.
Man, you've seen Crab Dozer before. Ooh, look at all these planets though. So close together too. This is probably how they're able to go to so many different planets this frequently, because they're so close together. And there's this giant one in the middle right here too.
Toenail clipping? If Albedo's still in Ben's form, his DNA would be identical to Ben's.
So that could be why Albedo is still in Ben's form. One, just to lure Ben into Kyber's ship, and for two, to do all this DNA misdirect. So I guess it kind of does make sense. But still, I don't think Albedo's Ultimatrix has a timeout function. So even after all of this, I don't see why he'd ever use Ben's form again.
On a wild moose chase.
That's what I'd do if I were him.
I love how Max doesn't correct Rook because he knows what he's talking about. It's like not even worth it. I get that kind of stuff, you know? Like if you know what somebody means, is it really worth correcting them? You're still communicating efficiently.
Another plumber station reporting in with a positive indication of Ben's DNA.
22 light years from Earth.
But see, these blacks are actually black. So how does this work?
And if we run into Albedo...
Then Rook's gonna put a bullet in him. You ever seen Rook act this lethal before? Like, it could be taken as like he just has this much affection for Ben now that he's willing to go out hunting for him. No pun intended. But even so, Rook's like, I'm ready to shoot him. He's never been like this before. Now you're new. You should be a surprise. You're the one that should have been shadowed, if anything. And Ben transforms back. He didn't even do anything yet either. Lots of setup for no payoff. I'm gonna be saying that again soon in a bit. You'll see.
Welcome to my world.
Why are all the predators so freaking small in this episode?
It's just a little place I've set up for testing new weapons.
So this whole place was created by Kyber. It's not just some place that Kyber resides. And given it matches a lot of the artificial plants of Primus, maybe that's just how artificial environments form. Like you get your create your own forest test tube kit, and these are the plants you get.
I see you've got a new lapdog, whatever that thing is.
A Penuncian.
Penuncian. So this is the first new predator we've gotten since season 2. It's the last one we're ever gonna get. Though it was unexpected and interesting that we even got at least one more new predator.
And big surprise, it's wearing your rip-off-a-tricks.
The line is spoken very confidently, but Ben is animated very afraid. That's another recurring thing in this episode too. It doesn't seem like the voice lines even match the very cartoony animated art at all. So this episode has a lot of things working against it. The color palette in most of its distributions is wrong. The animation frequently doesn't match the voice lines. And while this is my first example, it does continue much later too, and we'll keep going. There's a lot of setup for no payoff, and it's just way too goofy, even for Omniverse. It's just not a great episode for me. We're gonna get through it, just like we did all the others.
First, a game. The game continues until you cannot.
Easy peasy, you got this, Ben.
So you say.
This shot here is another perfect example. We see this plant right here all the time on Primus too. This is just Nematrix Primus, that's it. Can't even deny it anymore.
Bring it!
Ditto fans, I'm ready for you to unsubscribe. I'm just gonna let you know right now, I really don't fuck with any of what's about to happen for the next like 7 minutes. I'm still gonna try to be fair and give it a fair analysis, but it's like, this is one of my least favorite scenes in the whole show of all time. And I know there's so many Ditto fans out there, so I'm ready for it. It's okay, but I still don't like this scene.
Good luck chasing all of us at once.
As the camera scooches back further and further for each Ditto, the Ditto's panning back is animated. Look at the shape of their nubs and the shapes of their heads. As each one pans out more and more, there's a little bit of that human imperfection. So they're getting animated on the frames to be further and further from the camera, as opposed to the background where it starts zoomed in on a single picture and continues to zoom out. For a shot like this, I wouldn't have expected them to animate it like this. Normally they would animate each Ditto individually at about this size and then scale them down themselves in the computer.
Native to the planet Hathor.
Hey, that's Ditto's home planet.
Thank you, Ben. I'm actually surprised you knew that too.
The natural predator of the Splixen.
Hey, that's Ditto species.
Okay, now this dialogue's kind of sloppy.
Fancy that.
If this is just the ability of the Penuncian, I don't see why Kyber had to touch the Nemetrix to get it to clone itself. Shouldn't that have been something he does by whistling?
Me and my big mouths.
So Ben, right now you do have the option to just change into a different form. Instead, we're gonna go on this whole elaborate Looney Tunes chase. You do not have to be Ditto right now, Ben. It's fine. The battle hasn't even begun. He's not attacking you. You're safe. Just change form. Also, underneath his arms doesn't seem like it should be this black either. This is probably a coloring error. Okay, yeah, fuck it, Ben. Let's do this. Though those are some mad hops for Ditto, though. He's like leaping into the air. We did get some good Ditto aerobics back in the classic series, and the way that he was fighting Mauve Riedel with Ditto showed a lot of potential for stuff like this too. And the maneuvering? That's pretty good maneuvering too. He's already got one down, and the environment almost instantly changes into a winter wonderland. But with the way it changed, and like you can see the distance he traveled, it's almost like the biome really did like change weather instantly, rather than Ben just strolling into a snowy area and not noticing. Because he really didn't cover that much distance before getting to here. So how did he get this far and not notice it was snowing? And of course the ice is gonna crack. This part I do like, how when the ice splits so that he clones himself, and then one of them starts drowning on one side, so he creates a third clone to come and balance this part of the ice out. That's creative. I'm enjoying that. And now they're all scared. Now he's in the desert. See, like this whole area can't just be desert, right? Is he shifting into like these invisible fields that changes the weather, or are they really covering this much ground? That's nuts.
I knew we should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque. Oh my God, that was so funny.
That's a reference to Bugs Bunny.
I knew I should have made a left turn at Albuquerque. I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque. I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque.
Feels pretty out of place.
When I first recorded this, I didn't really get my point across, but I think I figured out the best way to phrase it. Is a lot of jokes like this is just a reference for the sake of the reference. Like, it being a reference is supposed to be the joke. Whereas in the original scene with Bugs Bunny, he says it because it makes sense within the context of whenever he says the joke. Here it's just like, oh hey, you remember this line? Isn't that funny? But without the proper setup or anything, they're relying on the reference exclusively to be the reason that it's funny, and it doesn't work. And Omniverse is full of these kind of jokes. They just depend on the fact that, like, if you remember it, that's what makes it funny, right? But even if you're amused by it, did you laugh genuinely? Did you externally laugh at that?
What is with Kyber episodes and Looney Tunes jokes, you know? That is some fast digging power for Ditto, though. I'm not even gonna do it. Though Kyber did say it was a game, so maybe this is Ben's way to just mess with Kyber and say like, this is how easy I have it. You really can't have a handle on me. The copium's real hard right now. 3 caves. Wasn't this asset reused from somewhere else? I don't know, I could have sworn I've seen these caves before in another episode. See, Kyber didn't even have to do shit. He didn't need a whistle or press on the Nemetrix. This thing can just do it. Oh, they all made it.
That's Ben's DNA signature. We have been on a wild goose chase.
Believe you mean moose.
That's right, Rook. You stand your ground.
This is all my fault. I should have foolishly charged after him.
Well, let's not get crazy here. That's exactly what Rook was trying to do anyways. In fact, the moment that Rook spotted where Ben was, he tried to go in after him. The only real issue is that Ben was faster than you on foot, which is kind of surprising if you think about it. But not only did Rook not do anything wrong, which could just be a character flaw, like, oh, he's blaming himself even though it's not his fault. He says this line,
I should have foolishly charged after him.
As if that's not exactly what he did.
It's no use beating yourself up over what you did or didn't do.
It's because you did do it right.
Right now, we need to focus on finding Ben.
It's a small scene, but it would probably mean more if, like, the first part was framed differently. Like, if we did see Rook resist trying to go after Ben. Like, oh, I'll cut him off around here. But yeah, he did charge right after Ben. Ben was just faster.
3,700 plumbers are reporting positive local findings of Ben's DNA.
I wonder if any of these could be residual traces of Ben himself from his many past galactic travels.
That's a great observation, because I was just going to say there's no way that Albedo was able to leave all of that DNA around the galaxy. How much did he say it was?
3,700 plumbers.
Yeah, there's no way. Some of it has to have at least been Ben in the past.
Scan for residual traces of tachyon engine emissions. If we can track those,
we will find the ship belonging to whomever left the DNA samples we found.
That's assuming Kyber's the only ship that has tachyon engines. I find that very hard to believe. In fact, one of his previous missions did use a tachyon ship. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a line about the Rust Bucket 3 having tachyon stuff in it too. But, you know, it is a lead.
Miss me again!
So it's kind of hidden by the dust clouds filling up the screen, but between these two dittos, the background is exactly the same, except surprisingly for this little piece of grass, but even the texture is exactly the same. So how did this little piece of grass disappear? A lot of mysterious art changes in this one. Presentation aside though, this is a good way to wear this thing down. The perfect solution. I can see why this is its predator.
It was his idea!
Is each one of these hands drawn differently, or are they all cloned? Yeah, there are differences between each hand. All right, yeah, I can see the effort there.
It was his idea!
It does look like the shoulders come up twice, though.
It was his idea!
See, it's like that.
It was his idea!
Boop, boop. Yeah, that's a mistake. All the water droplets just disappear, too, but this one's actually pops away. I have a feeling these were all supposed to stay on screen, and only this was supposed to disappear. So we pan away from the action. You can see a little bit of forest here, so maybe the biomes are connected and it's not a weather thing. Oh yeah, these ones are still drowning, surfing around and whatnot. I don't even have anything like that's really negative to say. These parts so far aren't even like too goofy for me. I've kind of just accepted that this is how the episode's gonna be, but I'm not gonna lie, it's just kind of boring to watch. It all feels meaningless. Like we've been doing this for like what, 5 minutes now? Almost a third of the episode is dedicated to this and it doesn't really go anywhere. That's the thing, it's just pointless antics. The Dittos can be doing anything and they're kind of proving that point anyways, but yeah, the Dittos can be doing anything and it's all gonna lead to the same thing. There's no consequences. So if you're not entertained by all these antics, it just feels like I'm waiting here for something meaningful to happen. Now, am I okay with meaningless action? Sure. There's been dozens of breakdowns where I've just been entertained by not even just meaningless action, but fun, meaningless scenes. You know, things to give characters life, things to show the fun parts of the show. And I'm a big defender that not every single thing in a story needs to be purposeful and mandatory in order for it to be worth it. Sometimes you just want to be entertained, and I get that. But fuck, man, this has been like 5 minutes of this, and it's just the same joke over and over. Oh, they're silly characters. Oh man, they clone around a lot. And while there's a couple of interesting things they do with it, like the Dittos balancing each other out, most of it is just this, like the whack-a-mole joke. Like the, oh, I think I got this, but oh, never mind, I don't. They did that like 3 or 4 times. Oopsie doopsie. Like, I'm not even annoyed, I'm just bored. Oh, does he think he's got it? Is something gonna happen that makes him think he doesn't got it?
Out of here.
Oh wow, who would have saw that coming? Ditto is pretty big compared to this mountain. In fact, is this mountain Kyber's version of frickin' Primus's big volcano mountain? I swear to God. And I guess Kyber's got some pet birds living around here too. That's neat. I can see Kyber being a bird kind of guy.
Okay, so you guys might have the edge on Ditto.
This whole sequence is another one of the things I was talking about where the voice performance doesn't match the animation at all.
I've got tons of other aliens to choose from. How do you like that? I just won't turn into Ditto, and there's nothing you losers can do about it.
I feel like I'm gonna have to edit this with the clips out of order, but I do want to try to keep all the clips just to further make that point. But with animation, like the voice acting usually comes first, unless you're dubbing a project, so like they had Yuri's references. Why did they animate him like this?
What's the matter?
They're just waiting for my orders.
Is that how the Penuncian works? Because if so, how is Kyber ordering all these Penuncians to do so many different things in all these different locations, fighting Ditto in completely different biomes? Is Kyber just that fucking good?
All I have to do is not change into their natural prey. I can take on as many of these predators as you can throw at me.
He's kind of right, though.
Can you take on all of them at once?
Now, if we didn't just waste 6 minutes on Ditto, this right here would be my least favorite part of the episode. Because this is more than just boring. This is just straight up insulting. So we set up a pretty ballin' scene right here, right? Ben's now about to have to face every single predator at once, which I believe he still could probably do, but that'd be one hell of a fight. This is crazy. This is actually pretty hype. And that's an interesting hyperspace animation. We've seen a couple of different variants of people entering and leaving hyperspace, but not this one before. I like it though.
This is where the trail ends.
There's nothing here.
Dead ends. Strain for your feeble minds to stare.
I love how Albedo is like, no, being on their monitors isn't enough. I need to holographically project myself, really get in their face.
I am not without compassion, Grandpa.
Weird choice to have Albedo call him that, because he's not Ben, so he must be meaning it as an insult, right? Like, oh, Grandpa. But even so, I don't know. The dialogue's all over the place here for this episode. Everything's all over the place.
Your suffering won't last nearly as long as you allowed mine to.
Oh shit, Vilgax drones? That's nutty. Where did Albedo get these? Do these belong to Kyber? Did Kyber get these? Okay, yeah, so we're back at it right here, right? Ben's about to face all the different predators, and you can see they were all drawn at different scales too. Look at the thickness of the outline on this guy compared to how thin Bug Lizard and Vicestopuses are. So these all must have been drawn at the wrong scales and had to have been fixed in post.
I'll grant you a merciful end.
Do you see the hologram floating up and down as if it's not completely fixed in air? It's got that up and down wiggle. That's new.
Way big.
Uh-oh. And that's why I hate this scene. The biggest blue-balled setup ever. You really think you're about to get something special here, huh? And then he just turns into Astrodactyl and flies off. And then you never even see the rest of the predators again. Bare minimum, Hypnotic could fly after him, right? What if they all turned into Hypnotic and flew up and then started changing and there was an air battle? I don't know. I guess we just had to have that 5-minute Ditto scene, huh? We had to. It was so worth it, right? Wasn't that hilarious? Weren't you chuckling out loud verbally the entire time?
So long, suckers!
It's a nice touch that you do see the sky get darker the further up he gets as he gets away from the clouds. But boom, now he's reached the fake sky. Oopsie doopsie. Yeah, keep chuckling, keep coping, buddy. You definitely planned this, right? Ben's also really lucky he found the one spot in the sky that had a tunnel. What if he bumped his head like 3 feet to the left? Would there also be a... Though I love this design. I actually missed this the first time I watched this episode, but I've since noticed it. Albedo's machine right here resembles, well, take it away, Cooper.
A giant Ultimatrix.
Isn't that neat though? This is a really cool design. This is the best thing about the episode so far. And this is actually where I feel like a silhouetted misdirect works, because you'd expect this to be Dr. Psychobos. Is he shaped exactly like him? No. But you only see it for a little bit and you think like, oh, Kyber's here. There's a cerebral crustacean looking dude. It's gotta be Psychobos. So this silhouetted misdirect, I'll give him credit for. This one actually works.
Dr. Psychobos!
But no, it's Albedo using a cerebral crustacean form. I like this a lot, not just for the misdirect, but perhaps it emphasizes there's just certain things that cerebral crustaceans have an easier time doing or an easier time thinking about over Galvins, and shows that while Blue Kichendriba and Psychobos have like a Galvin and cerebral crustacean rivalry, it's not a species-wide thing. Because if it really was that big of a deal, Albedo would probably never do this.
Albedo?
It's also interesting as they brought Corey Burton in just to voice Brainstorm for a couple of lines here, because he doesn't share any voice actors with any of the other cast in this episode, and they would usually never make Ben use an alien who's voiced by somebody who's not already on their payroll for this episode. So bringing in Corey just to be Brainstorm for Albedo, that's a bold move.
It's your funeral.
Albedo fires his cerebrocrustacean electricity out of just the front of his head without opening up the chamber. We've seen Brainstorm do it from his claws, but I don't think we've ever seen Brainstorm fire electricity out of his head without opening it up first. Yeah, I just checked. It never happens. The visuals really are just all over the place here. Oof. Of course they're fine, though.
You're a Galvin again. You got what you wanted. What is it with you anyway, Albedo?
He's got a point. That's kind of what I was saying, too.
And what? I'm supposed to just forget the imprisonment?
For your crimes? I mean, yeah, you put yourself there. He's acting like he was wrongfully imprisoned. I mean, sure, he was cut a raw deal, but he still did all of those things. He was rightfully so in jail.
The humiliation?
Well, no one told you to make Ben 10 live.
Chili fries?
Oh, shut the fuck up. You love those, man. See, now his motives are just so skewed. Even if we were to say, like, mistreated and put in unfortunate circumstances time and time again and didn't deserve this, and then once he finally was about to get what he wanted the first time back in Double or Nothing, and Ben stopped him, leading him to start prioritizing revenge over any other logic, this still just feels like sloppy character writing. Because we even saw it done right in Night of the Living Nightmare. Albedo feared Ben. He really couldn't cope with Ben getting the best of him time and time again and tried to trap him with the Cassiopean Dream Eater. But the way that episode was done and written, you really still felt like Albedo was that character. You empathized with him. You wouldn't want to defend his actions, but it still seemed like we were leading down the path. This is not Albedo. This really is motivationless. Everything he said is not only not good reasons, but he seems like he wouldn't even care. Like, this is his first time ever bringing any of this shit up. This has nothing to do with his revenge plot motivation that was set up in Night of the Living Nightmare. If you're trying to justify Albedo acting like this after all this time, this is not the way to do it, because we've already seen how to do it. At least we get a nice little morph animation here. This one's done pretty well.
Get over it, dude.
Oh, I am over it, dude.
You're a total freak show, Albedo.
Make your little jokes.
No joke.
See, lampshading it in the episode doesn't even make it any better. It's kind of just them admitting, like, yeah, we know what we're doing, but we're doing it anyways. If that's enough for you, great.
My superior intellect has anticipated any move you could possibly make.
For example, your friends are desperately...
Is he doing that with his mind? Is that one of his powers? How'd he do that?
Thanks to this cloaking device.
Whatever.
Look at that Tennyson athleticism.
Your gray matter form might have seen this coming.
He's got to give props to the Galvin. Oh shit, there's Kyber's thing, sorry. I can't even pay attention to this. If this is the size of the proto truck, and then later on these drones scale up to here, these robot drones are significantly larger than the ones Vilgax had.
The energy field around that dome felt the hit.
This is a pretty good shot. Nice job. Good stuff. Damn, look at Ben go too. That's crazy.
Hyperkinetic miscreants.
I won't take it as a compliment.
That mirrors Rook's line from earlier.
You're starting to remind me of Ben.
I will take that as a compliment.
Oh yeah!
Another super weird thing. Upchuck randomly spawning in with this thing in his hands? How do you even get there? What is going on with the episode visuals? Gosh! And somehow these blasts from Albedo is what transforms Ben back over and over? That doesn't make much sense either. Maybe this one I get because he gets hurt in the eye and Ben transforms back so that he doesn't feel the pain in his eye anymore. Maybe this one disrupts the pocket dimension inside of Upchuck's stomach. Okay, we got 2 down. But what the fuck is this one? And a lot of this is just reused frames and repeats.
Try shock squatch on for size, eh?
Albedo dodges in a ball of energy since now he's transforming. Albedo's jaw doesn't split open when he shoots out the webs. Don't hate me when I rate this one low. And how does that transform him back?
Had enough?
Bad guys always say that.
But I always mean it.
Then why do you even bother asking?
You ought to know by now my answer's always going to be no.
You are a very slow learner.
Oh yeah?
All of this sounds like filler dialogue too. Ben and Albedo have been having the same conversation. I'd even go as far to say like the same 2 lines said back and forth just in various ways over and over. Like if you look at the transcript of this conversation somewhere, they're just repeating themselves constantly. This isn't real dialogue.
Let's finish this once and for all. There's nothing wrong with the classics.
Would you say Ultimate Humongousaur is a classic?
Nothing wrong with the newbies either.
The classics are awesome too.
There it kind of works, throwing back the classic Linus Diamond Head because he is a classic alien. But Ben's still getting his shit rocked. Max and Rook are still doing this.
Let the old man show you how it's done.
By breaking off the wings. That is typical Max, ramming a vehicle right into the enemy's base.
Had enough?
Why do good guys always say that?
Holy fuck, man.
Oh yeah!
Ooh, now that is some really good pushing out of the smoke animation. The soft focus on it does kind of make it look a little janky, but it's still tons of great effort. You can see strokes slowly piercing through the smoke down here. Ben's figure is disrupted as well. The soft shadows around the smoke. This is done extremely well. I gotta take what I can get at this point.
I mean feet!
This one's pretty good too. Seems a little bit more rushed than the Ben one, but it works. This is also the third mistransformation involving Waybig in this episode. He just really can't get this guy, huh? Oh, what? Feedback kicks a missile back? That's certainly something. It's kind of awesome, but ah, shit, Bruce. Hello, little boop bop. I know. I'll give you some attention soon. Okay. You think he just sucked his life out of him like he did with Vivi Argost? Is that his new go-to move?
Once and for all.
Ha! See, it's funny because of the thing he said before.
It's still not funny.
I'm gonna cancel these fucking breakdowns, man.
I could have held him off for another 10, 15 seconds.
You could have turned into Upgrade and taken over the whole base if you really wanted to, but...
The three of you will surrender now.
Man, they really drew him way too big the first time around, huh? Look at the outline thickness of this shot. It's basically non-existent.
Your buddy Albedo here lost.
Show them why it is they who have lost.
Azimuth. Gosh, he is so big here. The scaling. The scaling. To be continued.
What's going on, everybody? Fro the bro with the fro here, and I'm here to tell you about my new series, Little X Big D, premiering right here on the Ink Tank. I know what you're thinking. Wow, Fro, you're getting your own series on the Ink Tank? That's right. Check it out.
Gosh darn it, this is gonna be one of the rare times I'm gonna have to pull out the zeros, because this plot really is a zero. Now I'm gonna give y'all a challenge. Tell me, what happened in this episode? I literally just watched this episode and I can't really tell you like what happened in it. There was barely a story. Ben gets captured, Max and Rook go looking for him, and then they're just kind of dicking around for the whole episode, killing time until we get to that cliffhanger. Like, this whole episode was written to get to that cliffhanger, and it seems like they were doing everything they could to try to jangle some keys in front of you to get you there, so that it feels like there was some kind of payoff. But genuinely, like, what happened here? There's the Ditto scene, which, whether or not you were entertained by it, it amounted to nothing. There was zero plot progression there. Rook and Max hunting down Ben was kind of just to give them something to do, and then even when Ben found Albedo, he was just fighting Albedo the whole time. That's not a plot, that's just a thing happening. A plot is a story. It has a beginning, a middle, an end. Sometimes you can go as far as to say it has a message. Not many Ben 10 episodes do, or if they do, they're kind of simple, but this one has none of that. There is literally no plot to this episode. You can tell me what happened on screen, sure, but is that a story? Do you feel like you got anything out of this from a narrative perspective? No. And that's how I feel about the characters as well. It's just full of empty dialogue and filling scenes, which is why the characterization will also get a zero. This is seriously some eye of the beholder level shit here. It just feels like folks don't want to admit it because it's Omniverse, and you can't hate on Omniverse. But for real though, like, the characterization, tell me, what character stuff was happening here? It was all jokes and distractions and filler dialogue. It's like everyone was like a pull my string kind of figure. There were no characters in this episode. I don't even know what to say other than that. Like, there's nothing for me to review here. When people tell me they love the Albedo arc, they don't mean this episode. They mean the first episode and the third episode of the trio of the 3 episodes. They don't mean this one. But this isn't even an episode. This is just, I have no words. That's why it's a 0. It's nothing. Visuals will get a 1, and that 1 is just because, hey, there's a new Predator and he looks kind of cool. Albedo's machine was kind of cool, all right. But this was animation errors galore. You can excuse animation errors because every episode has one, but this one is just stacked to oblivion with them. The action was super repetitive and bland. None of it felt like there was any stakes or cool things happening. And aside from the obligatory shots here and there, the animation was not that impressive. The physical comedy felt very overused. Like, this is what people who make fun of Omniverse think the show is. And you know what? If the whole show was just like this episode, they would be right. Importance, it gets a 5. And entertaining, I'll give it a 2. I'm at least giving points for some visual stuff, some entertaining stuff, and it's it's an important episode. So it even gets an 8 out of 25. That's hilariously too high for my taste. So I got 2 things to say from the last breakdown. A handful of folks had pointed out to me that Otto's face literally spells auto, and if this was on purpose, that's a super clever design. Also, Gestalt is a term used by Transformers fans to describe the ones that specifically combine with each other. And as is the case with some of the previous episodes, you can see the storyboards and animatics for this episode online, where you'll notice that Albedo is boarded to look exactly like Ben, much like how he does in UAF, opposed to having his own design with unique details like he does in Omniverse. Additionally, I am very impressed they were able to animate this big fuzzy guy just based on the blob shown in the animatic. And right now is usually the time where I will go over the last breakdown polls, but I'm gonna save that for next week when I go over the true finale for season 4. So until then, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. And as always, keep it fizzy. Big thanks to Andrew Analik in the ink cartridge tier, and Elizabeth Susan in the ink barrel tier. Your contributions greatly help the future of our projects, and we appreciate having you as a part of the community.